Well, hello everyone. You may have noticed there is no intro to this podcast. Well, let me tell you, it's been a roller coaster. I don't have any tech, basically. I have my phone and my iPad, and we have to borrow my grandma's laptop to upload this. Real talk. So I hope you enjoyed the podcast with Christina. I have some amazing guests lined up for you this month. But this episode, I want to keep it real, back with astrology, back to my roots. You know me, health coach and astrology and all those things. So, but this one I want to hone in on the next couple of weeks, bring you an astrological update. Thank you so much for bearing with me. I was away on holiday. So much even to tell you from that. Where to begin? So I'm currently going through my Saturn return. It is okay, so in astrology there's different ways we read charts, and there's like two sign systems, and my astrology students will know there's whole sign and Placidus, and they're both useful. I actually find I really like whole sign, but by the by, if you know anything of astrology, you've got the second house is, I'm making this really short. The second house in astrology of your chart is finance, money, possessions, value, food. Because it's things that we need to sustain ourselves. And then the third house is like technology, day-to-day transport. It's a mobile house, so it's about moving, sort of huge, changeable, they're everywhere, small business, technology, media, it's all those things. And for me, Saturn, depending on which system I look at, is affecting both those houses. And Saturn return, as you know from mine and Jeevan's podcast, you can't even encapsulate it in a podcast. I really think it's something you have to live. It's relentless. Like, if you don't do things wisely, or you don't have strong foundations set, it will bring things in for you like that are just inconvenient to teach you, like a lesson, and it can ask you to make big financial decisions, and for example, for me in my second house, but it can also make money so scarce, and wherever Saturn is, you have to work really, really hard. I'm actually about to walk past a leaf blower, so could get a bit noisy, guys, so if you're listening on earphones, just turn it down a bit. So anyway, so we've kind of got that, and the moment Saturn return really, this is because of the nature of my chart, this has been building up for a long time, and it's actually been a real catharsis with my eating. I've got really in a great place with my nutrition, and as you all know, like really wanting to now share that out with the world. I'm not saying it's perfect, no one is, but compared to where I've been in the context of my life, like I feel amazing about it, and really want to move that now into my health coaching a little bit more, because food is super healing. As many of you guys know, I'm kind of talking to the converted here, but and I don't want to go down that path just now, because I'm trying to update you rather than go deep onto any topic. And so, but then the moment Saturn actually hit, I have my car, third house cars, second house money, literally randomly broke, and it was just so quick, and I was just like, what the hell? It's cost me £700 to fix. So I'm like, okay, take it in my stride, whatever it's called. Bearing in mind, I have changed to go full time into my my online business, and it's a tentative time, to say the least. I was like, this is fine. And then I went away with my boyfriend, and the moment we got to Barcelona, we get on the metro, I tried to make sure I was really vigilant with all my stuff. I got pickpocketed. Yes, I'm not going to detail about that. That happened the moment I got away on my holiday. So I was like, okay, thank you, Saturn. Because for me, my second house is cluttered with all the malefics, the challenging planets. And then next thing you know, I get, bearing in mind Saturn and Pluto are sitting there together. So it's just a really hard transit. It's just showing me I have no power over this stuff. And I literally have to keep going, okay. Because every time something happens, it brings up my abundance shadow. Like any shadows I have about abundance, they are coming up right now. And they are coming up strong. So then we're away on holiday. We're having a gorgeous time. If any of you follow me, and see that I posted about this beautiful mountain retreat we went to. It was insane. If I'm going to get Georgia and Jack on the podcast, they've left UK to do off-grid living and open this retreat it's near Barcelona. It's stunning. It's just bliss. So if you haven't considered going on retreats because you would have felt like it's too high value or it's just something you weren't sure about, like you can fly into Reus or Barcelona and literally be there, and it's, oh my god, it's amazing. It's just totally tranquil, and I can't wait to go back. I'm gonna actually be doing a retreat there in September, a modern goddess retreat. So hold a space in your diary in September. If you're thinking about retreats, it's going to be amazing. You're going to get private astrology readings and treatments and loads of meditation, yoga. Their cooking is insane. So guys, just keep that date. There's more coming on that later. I'm going to actually wait till Mars moves out of Capricorn for a couple of reasons, really. I can't really take any risks with Mars, so come like end of March, April, I will be sharing with you the details of that. So it's not going to be too high cost. I'm going to keep it low value. So that's amazing, and I'm really excited about that. And you can check them out on Harmony Mountain Retreat. Or if you want their details, just let me know. It's absolutely gorgeous, stunning, amazing, perfection, super quiet. You'll be alone. It's just great. Okay, so yeah, we get to Lanzarote where we're doing surfing and yoga for like 6 days, and like one night just randomly one morning my laptop's just doesn't turn on. It's like the morning that I thought, right, I should write a blog post, I should publish a podcast that I pre-recorded. This is the bugger, just doesn't turn on, and I'm like, okay. So then I put this hard reset on it, and it's loading, and it just gets stuck and nothing happens. I like Reiki everything when it doesn't work. Even my Reiki wasn't working on this shit, and I was like, oh my god. So I took it to the Apple shop yesterday, and I'm like, look, I got loads of podcasts on here. I can't remember if I've backed up the latest ones to Google Drive or Apple iCloud, because it does it automatically. Like, I got a lot of stuff on there. I've got I'm rewriting a modern goddess course to launch in March. Like, not rewriting, but adding loads of content. And yeah, basically, guys, she was like, the chip is broke. And I was like, what even is that? Something in the logic board, which sounds really awful. It's like a big defect, and the whole Mac is dead. And I am out of my warranty. It's just like, I can't even cope. And it's not even accidental damage. She's like, yeah, it all costs like £470 to fix. And I'm just like, because it's Mercury retrograde, Saturn return. I was just like, for fuck's sake. So I've been pickpocketing my car. Now this, I was like, what? This is so unlucky. But then she was like, your data will not be on there. Like, we have to fix this, and you just need to assume that all the data will be lost, because it's probably going to be how the MacBook is built. I was just like, what? What? So I was like, oh my god, I have lost all that content. So guys, there's going to be a delay. I don't know how the podcasts are going to appear. It's a roller coaster, and honestly, all this stuff could make me cry, because I am I am abundant in the sense that I am now able to do what I love and make a living, but I'm still not, because Saturn is in my second house natally, money, until I'm really 35, 36, it will always be restricted, and it's slowly built. That's what Saturn has done. But, I have no real support network in my family. My grandparents do what they can. They're incredible, lovely, gorgeous humans. But when it comes to shit hitting the fan with money, there ain't no help. My inheritance was, our inheritance, mine and my brothers and my sisters, was effectively stolen from us. We've had nothing when my mum passed. My dad is, he's not really around. It's not his fault. It's just the kind of man he is. And so I was just like, for God's sake, and all my abundance has come up. And when you think you feel okay about stuff and you think you can make that money back, when really your Saturn return comes or Pluto comes, it goes, how much do you really believe that? Well, how happy and faithful can you actually be? And I'm just having to continue to let go and know that I don't need to jump into old fear mindsets. I don't need to do anything rash. So it's huge. And so when these Saturn return, is going on, and then you have a little stab in the back of Mercury is going retrograde, which I'm going to talk about this episode. We have all these transits that just trigger things, but it's really the Pluto Saturn that's the underlying backbone, because you can have a Mercury retrograde, nothing really goes wrong. But if you've got bigger transits that are underlying, setting the scene for the type of lesson you're supposed to be going through on a material level, Saturn's very material, it's going to happen in a very obvious way. And also, for me, and everyone goes through different annual perfection years. It's actually a very simple astrological technique we use. But for me, I'm in my 6th house annual perfection year. So this means everything to do with day-to-day career stuff. And my 6th house is ruled by Mars. So all transits to do with Mars will affect me more. And so now Mars, which is one of my most important transit planets this year, which will happen in a real way, because that's what happens with annual perfections. This is how we can make predictions for your personal astrology in that year. And it's really I've never found it to be inaccurate. And Mars moves into Capricorn. So I've got all this heavy Saturn return energy. And Mars, which is a really big key player this year for me, moves into the 2nd house. And the 6th house is already not a great house. It's debts and difficulties and day-to-day things. It sort of swallows energy. And it's gone, here you go, plonk. And it's going to conjunct the South Node. And I'm thinking, Jesus Christ, what will happen then? Will I literally will my bank account just get rinsed by some invisible karmic alien or something? I don't know, because when the South Nodes and the Mars are meeting, this is a big energy. So guys, this shit is real, and just because I'm an astrologer and I see it coming doesn't mean I'm always prepared for how it's going to look. I just know that because the transit is happening, I'm like, I know how it's going to look vaguely, but when it actually comes, I'm like, oh, okay, astrological, I know, so I'm just going to keep stepping forward, because that's what Saturn wants us to do. And everyone going through this big karmic restructure at the moment, we just have to keep going forward, but letting go. Where is my power? It's not outside. I cannot control or hold on to anything, because it's all transient anyway. So my lovely gods and goddesses, we are about to go through some fun astrological territory. Did I have to update you on anything else? Oh, do you know, I'll just make separate episodes on all my insights, because there's a lot. And also, in fact, no, I'm not going to share that project. I have so many exciting projects, but the next month, I'm just going to share content. And this is because what we're going to go into now. So Mercury is going retrograde. It's like this weekend, so the 17th of Feb, something like that. It's actually happening in Pisces, and obviously it depends where this is, what this means for you in your chart, because you would want to look at the houses that Mercury rules and where Pisces is in your chart. And that's what you would want to look at. So if you're unsure, you can obviously book a session with me. We can go into depth. Mercury retrograde is something we notice, some stronger than others. This one will feel quite strong because it's in Pisces, and usually when Mercury goes retrograde, people moan about things going a bit tits up, in the sense of stuff breaks. I mean, look at me and my laptop, and it was all mad things. My iPad actually broke at the same time. It broke that same night. I think there was a power surge because the charger broke. That was dead. I couldn't read any of my books. I was like, Jesus, I really use tech, and that's what Mercury does. But it will feel stronger in Pisces because Pisces is this mutable, changing, watery energy, and it sort of dissolves things. I've always felt Pisces sort of dissolves and makes things more ethereal, and it's like, yeah, man, you don't need that. It's like, feels like the surfer of the zodiac to me. Not that all surfers are like that, but the stereotype of the surfer. And it's almost like that no man's land, and it slows everything down. It just dissolves all the boundaries. And Mercury is a fast-moving planet, and Mercury sort of goes from A to B to A to B. It creates form when it's in an earth sign. Mercury ruling Virgo, creating form and structure and compartmentalizing and sorting. Mercury is very analytical, and it thinks and it moves and it ebbs and it flows. That's the Gemini kind of airy manifestation of it. But at its best, it's really, I didn't understand Mercury until I got older, and I like its energy now. It doesn't really have a gender. Pisces is very feminine. And Mercury is going to be in the same place as Venus, exalted in Pisces, which I sort of think I talked about a little bit. But Venus is really happy and exalted in Pisces, because Venus is all Venusian things, textures, colours, beauty, love, money, fashion, food. It's the fine experiences. It's a lovely planet. And in Pisces, of course, it's really exalted, because Pisces is the higher expression of love, the higher expression of all the spiritual God-like expression of love and pleasure and joy, and connections. So Venus there can take on many faces, and that's why our holiday, I think, with my boyfriend was so nice, because we had that Venus in Pisces energy. You could see it beaming in the sky opposite that full moon in Leo. It was just beautiful. And so it's actually going to be, I think with the first few days where Mercury goes retrograde, and then we've got Venus in Pisces, I think it will be a nice energy, because if you think about Mercury retrograding in Pisces is slowing down, and Venus in Pisces is like sensual, so it's actually probably going to be quite a nice weekend for Valentine's Day things. Come off the tech, because the more you try and sort and do things, with Mars kind of leaving Sagittarius, okay, Mars is going to not leave for a little bit. It's still in Sagittarius. It's actually conjunct the galactic center around about now, which is a very spiritual time. So, be really attuned to the energy. It will play out in different ways for you. You don't actually need to look at your chart for any of this stuff. I like to, because I'm an astrologer, but simply feel into the energy. Now would be a good time to be a bit slower, because with Mercury retrograding in Pisces, it's like any contracts or I've done an episode on Mercury retrograde. If you scroll further down, it's called What is Mercury retrograde. It's a great episode. And I did a little post yesterday and just like my top tips for the retrograde, because there's just a few kind of things that just tend to play out. It's just normal. But with like contracts and things, for example, with Mercury in retrograde in Pisces, it might be that they just dissolve, like job offers that come through. Like I've literally had this in the last few weeks where I've been offered a job, I thought I was fine, and it's literally dissolved into thin air. But how it goes, it's like the ocean, it just washes out. It doesn't, like, there's no communication, it just washes away. It's very Mercury retrograde in Pisces. It can be that old relationships, like soulmates, return. But they will probably wash out as soon as they wash in. It's not great to start relationships on a Mercury retrograde, but they can. Like my last relationship started kind of on a Mercury retrograde, but it was a very different context. We didn't actually begin then, but we met, I think, on a retrograde. But yeah, so there's a lot of things. Tech, please, for the love of God, back up your stuff, because my computer, that is very Mercury retrograde, it just doesn't turn on. There's no explosion. It just doesn't turn on. And I go to the shop and she's like, you've lost your data. And you're just like, what? And so it's really quiet and it just dissolves into nothingness, And so I am serious in that. Back your things up and double check contracts, work contracts. That Neptune dissolves things, but it also blurs things. It makes things unclear. So if you for example, now, especially for those of you with dealing with things like property, and it really depends, because you've got this Mars Capricorn energy, which I'll go into, and the two energies kind of make sense together. So these next few weeks is just not the time to initiate, unless you absolutely have to sign things, make new deals, begin new projects. If they've already started, it's a good time to revisit them. This is a really good time actually to revisit old things and then kind of cement them so that they are like cement them, that's not the word, but like make them better than they were before. That's a really nice way to use this energy. But each and every day, little and often, this isn't a time to do any big bombastic new things, certainly not spur of the moment decisions, because they'll either dissolve, or when Mars retrogrades in September, they're going to become problematic for you and come to bite you in the ass. So I'll kind of move into that. If you want to know more about Mercury retrograde, definitely listen to my old episode on it. It kind of is helpful, and there's lots in there. Hiya. So have a check out of that. Now let's talk about Mars. Mars, the planet of action, fast, move forward, directed. Mars is just concerned with the path to God. It goes forward. It's the sexual energy. It's the male energy. It goes in, forward, driving. It's a hot, fast planet. It tends to be more the sprint and not the marathon. Saturn's like the endurance hiker going up the mountain. Mars is like bombed it up at the top, and then he'll get there and he's tired, and then he'll bomb it down the bottom when he's got his energy back. This is like Mars. And depending on obviously where your Aries house and Scorpio house are in your natal chart, will very much kind of dictate how this will feel for you. Mars is going to move into Capricorn sometime next week, I think. I'm really an accurate astrologer, but it's kind of neither here nor there, because you will feel it coming. And it's a very different energy from Sagittarius. Sagittarius is fiery, adventurous, moves around, it's change, it's dynamic, it's bombastic, it's fun, it's Jupiter, it has a wisdom, it's a very different energy, and it's fast. And I always find when Mars is in Sagittarius, like get these fun new ideas, but they never manifest. It's a strange energy, really. So we have that playing out. But then you also have the opposite, when Mars, the planet of sprint, I'm making this really basic here, moves into Capricorn, the planet of pragmatism, groundedness, slow and steady. Slow and steady wins the race. That's very Mars in that's very Capricorn, sorry. It's, it's the tortoise and the hare. Mars is the hare and Capricorn is the tortoise. Capricorn slows, limits. It just basically makes things, I just think it colds and dampens things. And Mars is hot, fiery, and then it moves into Capricorn that's just cold and heavy and dense. So it's a very, very different landscape here that Mars is moving into. And of course, in Capricorn, as you know, if you read my blogs, you're in tune with the podcast, you've read the karmic cycles, you will know this Pluto-Saturn energy it's happening, guys, all in Capricorn, as well as the South Node as it leaves Capricorn. These big karmic changes. And I feel like, and you can look at, when Mars and the South Node conjunct last, I think there's always big events. I'm not a great mundane astrologer. I never keep up to date with events. I just feel into the energy of it. But for sure, it's a notable energy, and it's going to go into Capricorn. We're going to feel it. It's going to ignite, and it can, for people with day charts, actually be a little bit more malefic, in that it might be harder, it might be more of a challenge. But when it meets the South Node there, the South Node, Ketu, is loss, sudden losses. It's karmic events. It's things we cannot control, perhaps in a malefic way. When it actually happened to me last year in the second house, it was conjunct, I think, a full moon. I don't remember. I'm sure of it. I don't know. I got mugged. It's like a bloody theme, isn't it? That was the last time I got mugged, and loads of money was stolen from me, and it really upset me. So I'm going to be like, I'm just not going to leave the house. I just won't leave the house. So I'm not saying you're going to get mugged, okay? This is not what I'm saying. But what I'm saying is, if you're planning a skydive or some kind of speed racing, or I don't know, you're planning like walking up on a cliff that day, or you're planning a financial gamble investment that day, or you're going to sign a contract for a new business, or you're going to sign a contract for a mortgage or a house, these big things you're going to decide to propose on that day, I probably wouldn't. It's not the best day. Yeah, and it's going to happen, check out the astrology of the time, see where things are. If you're super thinking like stuff is already challenging for me, how is this going to affect me? Of course, book in a reading, but it's not like a big life-changing Pluto-Saturn, but it will be a bit of a final ignition, is what I want to say, because Mars ignites of that karmic release. But it's just things we can't control. And Ketu, people say it's malefic, it's bad, Mars is bad. But definitely Mars cuts. So it just cuts the shit out of them and goes, here's, have that. And Ketu is dissolving materialism. Wherever you are trying to hold on, it will just go nope, and it will just dissolve it away in a really kind of strange, odd way, where you're like, what where did that go? Or it will kind of bring things this is not what will happen for you. You need to have a lot of transits for this. But when I was going through, I have a particular Ketu transit, which meant that my mother passed away very suddenly, and it just slipped away, and it's just where the universe brings you to your knees, and it just says, I'm going to take this away. Similar to Pluto for me, actually. I feel it in a similar way, but it's about where we're disillusioned and we can't hold on, so we must not rely on that thing. And once we stop relying on that thing, Ketu actually gives. It's very strange because it's in the axis with the North Node, Rahu. So it's very interesting. And so understanding the Ketu and Rahu in your chart, which is something I actually do a specific reading on, it's the karmic reading, is huge, because it actually, you're like, oh, it makes so much sense now as to why I'm in this place and why this keeps happening. And actually how we handle it is very important. So this energy for some will be bigger than others, but for those of you that have felt these transits really strong, those with Pluto in Libra, those with the strong placements in Libra, Cancer, Capricorn, Aries, this will be different for you, and it's not the time to initiate, as I've said before. It's not the time to start new projects. It's just anything you start now with Mars in Capricorn. I want you to be aware that when Mars retrogrades in September, it will be in Aries. And this is going to cause problem because it will be squaring Mars when it was here in Capricorn in February. So whatever you start now will cause a problem. It can be a challenge. Mars will retrograde, and everyone will feel this big style in September. Yeah, it's going to be difficult energy to navigate. If we were to initiate now, that can come back quite problematic. More so with people with day charts who were born in the day than night charts, but still it's going to be notable. Mars transits, we feel them. Everyone feels a Mars transit, especially if you're in an annual perfection year, where Mars is really key. It's a key player. So I am in one, as I said before, with Mars ruled. There's no way I'm going to initiate my retreat. We've already initiated it before Mars is in Capricorn, when it was in Sag. But I'm not going to try and force it through now to get it out into the world, because I know that in September, when I want the retreat to be, if Mars is squaring the initial energy, then that retreat is probably just going to go wrong. Something could go wrong. It could be storms. It could have power. Just anything. So these are all things that you would want to take into consideration. Can I hold off on this project? Is there something I could do actually to focus my Mars energy in Capricorn? Can I start creating a stronger foundation of what I have now, rather than actually moving into something new, so that I can then build something on it when Mars moves away from Capricorn, and it's not going to come back to bite me in the ass if I try and rush it through now. So these are all things you would want to take into consideration really through the next few weeks. Now, I think it's around the end of February, 28th, 29th, Venus will move away from Pisces, where it's really exalted, into Aries. Now, it's going to square all of this Saturn energy. It's a very difficult energy for some. For example, those with night charts, you will feel this more. So if you're born at night, so my partner, I know he will feel this a lot. It's actually going to affect actively his relationship houses, between family and relationship, and close relationships with others, and property and roots, romantic relationships. For me, it will be affecting my job, my business, for God's sake, my money, my creative projects. It's just going to be a ball. But it's not long lasting, and so anything that you feel in those days is because Venus has moved into the domain of Aries, which is war. Venus ruling relationships. It's not so happy there. Aries is not just war, it's also spontaneity and fatness. But when it's in a square with Saturn, there might be this want to have freedom and joy through relationship. But then you have Saturn and Pluto sitting there like dumpy old grandparents going, now. And they're like literally going to be creating duty for way down. There might be in relationships the need for freedom and expansion away from certain traditions of family roots. And that can't be found, and that will feel like a burden, but it will blow over. But this Venus energy, especially if, for example, you're a Libra ascendant, Venus will rule your ascendant, and you're a night-born Libra ascendant, and then it's happening, it's aspecting the 7th house and the 4th house. It can be wanting to have freedom from relationships, but then the duty and heaviness of like tradition and structure from maybe the family, like that's how it can play out, and it will feel really heavy on your soul because Venus is your ruling planet. And say then you're in a 7th house annual perfection year, so you're like 30 years old or something, then you're going to feel it even more. So it's really, these things are important to note because they do have an impact. So just bear those things in mind. So just don't make hasty decisions at that time. March is a better energy. After mid-March, things get better. I will say that. But this next month is just, it's going to feel weird because you'll have Mercury retrograding Pisces. Hey man, surf alive, strange, things breaking, things dissolving, contracts slipping away, old relationships coming back. So for example, if you got into an old relationship now, Mars is entering Capricorn. By the time September came, there could be a challenge. There could be some sort of hidden baggage that appears when Venus enters Aries, some fights, that's just an example. This is a generalization. You can't make these predictions without looking at someone's chart. And this is why looking at your chart is really essential for any of these things to really, know how it will affect you. But what I will say is that just for the next month, try and focus your energy more in revisiting our projects, slowing down a little, really creating strong foundations, double checking everything, crossing your I's, dotting your T's in whatever area that is, and keep doing it, because even if you've done it once or twice, you might need to do it again and again, and just hold off on those decisions as much as you can. If you have absolutely no choice, you have no choice. So it's one of those. So guys, I'm gonna leave you to it. Some of this stuff might go over your head. That's why it's better to listen a few times. Listen in a week when we are in the Mercury retrograde. I would absolutely love for you to share this episode with someone who you think always gets a bad time at Mercury retrograde. Maybe someone that is going through a 6th house annual perfection year. So anyone that's 29 years old, or I can't work this out. Oh no, it won't be that. Ignore me. Anyone that's going through, in fact, just ignore me. But share it with anyone you think might find it interesting. I would absolutely love you to get in contact. We have the Modern Goddess Online Sisterhood. It's a free Facebook group, so drop me an email and the email link below the show notes, and I can add you to that group. It's building. We can all communicate. There's so many lovely humans in there, and I just bear with me on the tech. I can't get into my email via any other platform than my laptops. It's just a joy. So just bear with me, guys. I'm going to do the best I can. The Modern Goddess online program is going to run. I will have to set the date back because I'm not going to be able to get the content out without a laptop. How I wanted to revamp it. Here we go, Mercury retrograde, and it's fine. So I wish you all a wonderful day, a wonderful Valentine's, because the energy is really nice today for Valentine's, actually, astrologically. And I strongly encourage you, if you are feeling like you would like to book a reading, to book in, because guys, there is so much you can gain from a reading, and I can make it super personal for you. But otherwise, just touch base. Let me know what you thought of the episode. Please maybe share the episode. Please leave like a rating and review if you can. That just helps more people find it, and it just helps me to keep sharing this information with you day after day. So have a wonderful week. Bear with me while the tech is restoring, and I wish you all lots of love. Thank you so much for listening.